Kevin Durant this year's missed a good amount of time. And now the NBA is bringing in a new CBA, collective bargaining agreement. If they did not agree to this, there could have been a lockout going to next season. The biggest news is that the NBA is adding an in-season tournament for the first time ever. Now, we've seen this in the WNBA. We saw the NBA add in the play-in tournament back in 2020 during the bubble season, trying to get stars in like Zion to the postseason. A lot of people are reacting strongly to the in-season tournament. The question I have, BC, I saw you're one of those people. Is the in-season tournament facts? And that's a bad way to say it. Is the in-season tournament fire or trash? What do you think?
Hot garbage. Hot garbage. Absolutely. I think that it is absolutely ridiculous and stupid, to be honest with you. I think that them thinking this is going to get people to tune in more or for players to care more is absolutely ludicrous and a little funny, honestly. Because I have seen just a bunch of comments. I actually watched your video, John, on TikTok that you made, and the comments, I know you probably saw the comments in there about how confusing it was or how stupid it was and blah, blah, blah. And it is. Listen, what's the incentive? All I've seen is you get to, if you win the thing, if you win the in-season tournament, 500K per player, and I guess per coach too, right? The hell is that? That's chump change. These guys are making 20 million a year, upward 500K. Yeah, that might mean something to the 14th or 13th guy on the roster, 15th guy on the roster, or the assistant to assistant to assistant coach or whatever. Sure, but how does that incentivize a LeBron James? How does that incentivize a Steph Curry, a Kawhi Leonard to play these games or whatever? And then the one thing that really set me off is the 83rd game. If you win this tournament, two teams have to play an extra 83rd game. That means nothing to the playoffs or the regular season. It means nothing. You just win cash prize. And like I just said, it's chump change to these guys. So what are we doing? Are we going forwards or are we going backwards, guys? Are we caring about player
We're going
safety?
forwards.
No, we're not. We're going backwards. If we're adding another game that means nothing, what happens if a LeBron James goes down in that game? What happens if an AD goes down? A Steph, a Kawhi, a KD? What happens then? What do you think the fan outrage is going to be in a meaningless game like a Pro Bowl or an All-Star game? This guy goes down. What do you mean no? How are you nodding your head no? Do we care about player safety or not, John?
We do. But first and foremost, this is the 1,231st game of the season. In the NBA calendar, there are 1,230 games. You're adding one game to that. Here's the thing. Part of what I didn't get to mention,
no,
the NBA and the CBA is adding in a huge provision to NBA awards and also all NBA teams where there is a criteria meter. You have to play 65 games or more. So in some ways, if a player gets injured and missed a couple of months, that 83rd game for a young star trying to get a max contract in an off season or two, that could be pretty useful.
Wait. You're okay. I got 2 points. First off, to that 1,000th game, you're just adding one more. Here's what I'm going to give to you. In my life, I had an epiphany. When I was a preteen, teenager, kid, I used to litter. Didn't have a care in the world, right? Then at one point, I thought to myself, why do I litter? It's because I fooled myself into thinking, oh, it's just one piece of paper. It's just one piece of plastic. It doesn't matter. How many people in the world do you think have that same attitude? I'd say a lot, a majority, to be honest with you. That adds up. So that one game that you just dismiss, can't do it. Second point to that. You were just telling me when we were debating on text about college basketball and Brandon Miller, should he stay or should he go? You were telling me he should go to the NBA because he can risk getting injured. Now you're saying an 83rd game for a guy can mean the world. Guess what? It could also end his hype or hurt his career if he snaps something, sprains something, breaks something. No hope, knock on wood, that it doesn't happen. But this is basketball. This is sports. This is contact sports. Things
Well,
happen.
college to pros is much different.
I'm not. Well, see, you're trying to be slick. I'm not saying that. I'm saying it's basketball. It's a contact sport. Anything can happen. We've seen freak injuries. We've seen it happen. Guys just land for a dunk and their freaking leg snaps. Anything can happen. It's sad, but it's true. So for you, I don't want, again, I'm not disagreeing with the 65 game minimum for awards. I like that. I'm not disagreeing with the other things in the CBA because I liking what I'm hearing in other things. The NBA players being allowed to invest in the teams can get a little tricky. I'm not sure about that, but everything else I'm liking. I'm hyper focusing on this in-season tournament leading to an 83rd game. If we care about player safety, and we've been talking, we literally had a conversation, I think a month or two ago, John, about younger players getting injured even more often. Okay. And how it's insane the number of injuries that these young players are going through. We cannot continue to say we want to shorten the regular season, not only to get fans to care more, but also to have player safety. We can't be saying that. And then in the other breath, be saying this 83rd game, it's just another game. It's 1,032 games, just a 33rd game. Who cares? It can be major for this, with discrediting that it could also change the trajectory of a career or a team's point. If the Denver Nuggets are a team that makes it to that in-season tournament finals and their starters are playing, and God forbid a Jamal Murray, a Jokic, or a Michael Porter Jr. goes down, and they're the number 1 seed, how do you think that impacts their odds of winning a championship? They're probably getting bounced in the first round if one of those guys goes down. Maybe. Definitely probably second round. You have to take those into consideration. I despise this 83rd game. It's going backwards. It's not going forwards for every point I just made.
Didn't we talk about possibly lowering
Yes.
the amount of games in the NBA
Yes,
season not too
I
long
think
ago?
we all agreed on like 65 to 60 games too.
I was saying even 70, 72.
Yeah.
I think that's where I was at, but you guys are saying 65. I think adding an 83rd game is pointless. And like Brandon says, you're not making the game go forward. Sure. And an in-season tournament, to be honest with you, who's that pulling?
You. It's going to
No,
pull
it's
you,
not.
Justin.
No,
Yes,
it's
it
not.
is.
We're telling you, John.
Because
we're telling you we're
a
not
couple of my
caring.
guys are going to make a little bit more money.
It's not that. This in-season tournament's going to make pre-Christmas or maybe Christmas basketball more entertaining. Because you're going to get better matchups earlier in the season. The way this works, I didn't mention this, it's going to be baked into the regular season schedule. I did make a TikTok, and people are like, can someone explain this in NBA terms? This moron couldn't. The way it works, it's the top 8 teams from either conference. They go head-to-head in a single elimination game that's already a part of their schedule. What makes this more interesting is the quality of the matchups. No one likes the play-in tournament when they made it, but when you got to see John Morant versus Steph Curry, you were watching. When you got to see LeBron versus Steph in the play-in tournament, you were watching. Now, of course, those games had more at stake because it was playoffs or go home, but in this case, people love watching great Christmas basketball because you have the premier stars going head-to-head. When we get LeBron versus KD, it's amazing. That's what the league's about. And so in these matchups, you're getting higher profile games and young players playing for more because they're getting a little bit extra dough for just one extra game, 500K. That's not bad. And because players are competitive and they have that bone, that DNA in their body, they're going to compete at the highest levels. They're being incentivized to play more games and not sit out. And so in my eyes, this is going to be a tournament at first people aren't going to love, but there's no risk here. There is, of course, risk with the 83rd game, but there's risk in any game a player gets hurt. So yes, the 1,231st game could lead to an injury, but so could the 1,230 others. You know, this is kind of like if you have an ant issue, you're trying to plug it with you basically take every ant and you flush it in the toilet. That's not going to be the difference, adding one extra game. The difference in actually preventing player injuries and limiting it is maybe putting an ant trap down, the same way you limit the game to 10 games. I agree with you guys. 82 games is too much. 83rd is not that much of a difference, though. I think maybe 73 games, but the 73rd being for 2 teams out of the 30 in the league being extra, that would be a better way to really reinforce we care about player safety. So I'm not disagreeing with you on that part, but what this ultimately comes down to is better high-quality matchups in October, November, and December. And for smaller market teams that want to get really good TV deals on national television, they're going to get that because the NBA wants this to work. So they're going to market these games. So for smaller market teams like the Midwards, they're going to love this tournament.
I got it. No disagreement with the head-to-head matchups being better overall, right? Higher ranked teams going up against each other. Yeah, sure. The problem with them not succeeding to the level they want to in October, November, December. I mean, I feel like it's pretty obvious. Does anybody have an answer why they're not that highly watched in those months?
NFL.
Ding, ding, ding. Circle gets the square. Johnny, tell him what he's won. Of course, it's the NF freaking L. They run everything in those months. This is not going. And obviously, if it's not on Sunday, you'll get people to tune in. Here's an idea. How about have like baseball has games throughout the day? Start at 12 p.m. Have a day where there's no football on Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. I know is college football, but there's no games on those days. Take over the day. Take over. You put these games at 8 p.m., 9 p.m., 10 p.m. East Coasters ain't not worth it, man. Especially on a work night. Come on. There's other ways and strategies to go about it. And again, my whole point is that 83rd game. I find it absolutely I'm thinking of the what if scenario. What if a guy like, a big time player goes down that completely ruins the playoff? And because it's going to happen right before the playoffs. That can is it not?
This is going to happen in November.
The final game.
The final game's to be in early season.
So how are they going to work that?
What do you mean?
Like the matchup. So when the winners match up, how are they going to work that? Are they going to just change the
I reckon it'll be the top 8 teams in the standings, and then they'll just continue with the season the way it is.
So they'll just wait. So it won't be like leading up to a game. If the game happens to take place in mid-February, the championship game, they'll just wait until mid-February. They won't flex it earlier.
No, the tournament, the finale, like the mid-season tournament game, that's going to be in December. So it sounds.
Yeah, the only
Very
thing.
Confusing.
Yeah, how are they gonna? So they're gonna flex the games. If like let's say, because you're saying they're gonna match up with each other, right? But it's gonna be in the context of the regular season matchups anyway.
Yeah, that'll be in December.
So like let's say, because they don't know who the winner's gonna be. So Phoenix and Boston are the two teams that win and go to head to head. They're gonna have to take a game that those two teams are gonna play against each other and flex it to match up with the in-season tournament. You get what I'm saying? Or am I being I understand it might be a little confusing because I'm confusing myself, but you get what I'm saying? So like, that's what I'm saying. So they're going to flex a game from like, let's say it might've happened if you look at the schedule, it might happen in April or March. They're going to take that game and pull it to end of December. Is that what or does anybody know the answer to that question?
To make it very simple, this game's happening in December. That's it. That's the end of the in-season tournament. And so here's the thing. The in-season tournament would have been a better idea if it guaranteed you a top 6 spot in the playoffs so you could avoid the play-in tournament. That way, veterans and stars, they don't have to worry about the risk of missing the playoffs because now they're guaranteed a spot in December. And you're not giving them a guaranteed top 2 or top 3 spot, so we don't have an average team game on realistic seeding, but you're giving them a top 6 position to avoid those extra days, those extra games in the season, and you're getting a full week of rest no matter what happens to your team. Like, let's say the Bucks deal with a bunch of injuries. If they win the in-season tournament, this is my idea. This is not what's going to happen. You get that top 6 seed, and now you're sitting pretty comfortable with a lot more security. So I thought that was
is that a guaranteed in the thing? It's so seeding is as well.
No, that's my idea.
Oh, okay. Okay, I get what you're saying. Okay.
That would be a lot more interesting because there's so much more at stake.
I don't think, but that's not going to happen now.
Yeah,
the CBA just got signed, so when is that up? So that's not going to happen for
2020.
Yeah, so that's not even going to. It makes it a little better that the in-season tournament, the last game isn't going to happen at the end of the season. It's just I don't know, man. I feel like we should be negotiating for less games. I believe that the NBA doesn't need more; it needs less. Less is more. It's one of the reasons the NFL is super successful. There's 17 game season. It should be 16, but they added another one. It's just less is usually always better.
So, John, you think this is a good idea for the NBA?
I think the risk is very minimal.
Okay.
Could there be an injury in this game? Yes, there could in any other game. So the positives of getting more fan interest in better games in the season will get more fans to tune in. And ultimately, what's the worst that happens? It doesn't work out. And then 6 years when they negotiate a new CBA, they take it out. Like
I
the
think the
in-season
worst.
tournament, it's a new idea and it's going to take years for it to really actually be executed.
Mhm.
The in-season tournament is a question. We've seen with the play-in tournament. That's a pretty good idea that I think a lot of NBA fans enjoy. It makes the end of the season more interesting, and it
Do you
puts.
and John? Do you enjoy the plan?
I do. I love watching the play-in.
Me and Justin
I
are on the
don't.
same
You
I
didn't
don't.
watch. You didn't like watching last year the
I'm
I'm not
Timberwolves
saying I
against the
don't
Clippers.
like.
That wasn't fun.
I'm not saying I don't like watching it if it's a great matchup. I'm saying I don't care for it. Listen, you and my whole point of why I don't care for it is you had 82 games to get a top 8 seed. Now we're rewarding teams that are in 10 and 9. Are you,
I agree with
the
that,
hell is
but
that? I don't.
that's separate.
Nah.
That's the in-season tournament, the playing tournament. I'm getting confused. The playing tournament gave us one of the greatest memes. Patrick Beverly at the scores table. Every year we
Yeah.
have a great moment in the in-season tournament or the
Well,
mid.
playing
I,
tournament.
I,
Yeah,
you,
I
you,
know,
you
but
expect that because of how
ne-
much is at stake.
yeah, but
That's fine.
how often is the West going to be super stacked like it is, where you
Mhm.
have a LeBron James as a 10 seed or the Pelicans as a 9 seed or whatever the case. That's not always going to be the case. Right now, the West is in terms of star power and talent is insanely stacked. It goes 9, 10 deep. The East is a little bit, more top heavy.
Well,
That's eventually going to even out again. It's eventually going to even
think
out.
about it this way: Zion's in the playing tournament currently. LeBron's in it. Anthony Edwards.
What about
Shea
the
Gilgeous
East?
Alexander.
How about the
Jimmy,
East? Yeah, exactly. That's my
Jimmy
point.
Butler.
Okay, that's again.
Trae
Yeah.
Young.
No, let me give you the 9 and 10.
DeMar DeRozan.
Oh,
The Raptors and the
yeah, the
Bulls.
Raptors and Bulls. Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
point.
It's actually hilarious to me that the Wizards are trying to win games and they're not even going to make the playing tournament. Like they have 34 wins. If you want
That's
to,
the whole point. Is again, you had 82 games to get there, and now you're
the
going to
Wizards
try
are
your ass
clowns.
off.
That's that.
I understand that
That's
the
different.
plan is there to incentivize these bottom feeders to take regular season basketball a little bit more seriously rather than just go out there and tank. But whoever comes out of the play-in is probably not making any noise anyway. For me, it's just if you're 1 through 8, you play 82 games in a regular season. If you can't make the top 8 seeds in those 82 games, then you do not belong. I don't want to watch you play another game. You didn't make it. It's fine. Move on. Let's move on to the NBA playoffs. Like I said, sure, you're going to create some great moments with the play-in tournament because there's so much at stake. But like I said, you play 82 games to get a top 8 seed. And now in this case, a top 6 seed. Dude, it's I don't care for it. I maybe I'm just old school and going by what I grew up on.
It's
But